Isn't it a gateway drug? If I use it, won't I become addicted to even worse things like meth and heroin? What if everything you thought you knew about marijuana was completely wrong? All of the claims surrounding the use of marijuana have left society more confused than ever. Misconceptions have misled people to believe incorrect information about cannabis and how it affects the body. Society's structure has led people to believe that the drug is one of the most dangerous substances that can destroy anyone's life the minute they touch it. While others, usually younger generations, think that it couldn't possibly affect them in any way. Not only are both sides of the misconceptions completely wrong, but they also prevent society from truly understanding the miraculous abilities of the cannabis plant. It can help treat a vast amount of debilitating diseases that cause so much pain and suffering in those that have them. Not only can it soothe pain and cure things like seizures, marijuana is also a far more natural alternative to synthetic medications often used by patients. However, just like any other substance, marijuana is still a powerful drug that needs to be used with respect. Unless action is taken to address these issues, society will never reap the true benefits of marijuana and all it has to offer. Marijuana has always been present as a controversial topic in society over the course of history. Much like other drugs such as cocaine and meth, people have viewed marijuana as a dangerous substance that could easily derail anyone's life. Cannabis has had a long track record in the political world. With Nixon's war on drugs, Nancy Reagan's speeches, and various attempts at anti-drug campaigns, society was surrounded by information and data on the harmful effects that resulted from smoking pot. As time progressed, a new method of controlling the drug emerged under the Controlled Substances Act of 1970. This allowed marijuana to be placed under the Schedule I list of drugs, alongside morphine, LSD, and ecstasy. By placing cannabis alongside these far more illicit substances, people began to form misconceptions about marijuana's strength and effects. Perhaps one of the most popular and the most detrimental rumors about the drug is its ability to act as a gateway to the harsher and more damaging substances. People fear that once they use marijuana, they will be opened up to a world of drug addiction from which they cannot escape.
Yeah, I would say the biggest problem that we still see with misconceptions is marijuana being a gateway drug. I don't really know what gateway drug means. I mean, that's something that people my grandparents' age decided to make up to trick everybody. I mean, I would argue that the real gateway drug is alcohol because that's the first thing most people get messed up on. Or prescription drugs because you get your wisdom teeth taken out and they throw you Percocet and then all of a sudden. So I hate the gateway drug thing. Another argument as to why I'm going to humor that argument and say, yeah, marijuana is the first illicit drug people try. Well, the reason that it is that is because you have to go to the drug dealer to buy it, and the drug dealers don't card. Drug dealers don't care if you have a problem. They're drug dealers. So if you're there to buy pot, and the guy's got cocaine or ecstasy or whatever drugs they've got, it's available for you. So if cannabis were legalized and sold in stores, it'd be like liquor. Like very rarely when you're checking out of a liquor store, do you pick up an 8 ball of cocaine because it's also sitting there at the cash register as an impulse item next to the shakers and the chewing gum.
While the issue of labeling cannabis as a gateway to the world of addiction is quite detrimental, an additional misconception that further damages the reputation of the substance is the belief that it causes brain damage. Though studies show that marijuana does have a certain effect on the brain, especially those of younger ages, and may cause changes in its development, it doesn't cause the mass amounts of harm that people believe it to. In fact, alcohol does far worse damage to a person's mind and body than cannabis could ever do.
It's not toxic. It's not destroying brain cells like alcohol does. THC in young brains, when brains are developing, can cause it to develop differently in not necessarily a positive way. So I'm not advocating that everybody consumes cannabis all the time. But again, it's not toxic.
Many of the misconceptions surrounding marijuana focus on its dangers and harmful effects. While this mindset is often very common in older generations who lived through the pinnacle of anti-drug campaigns, younger people tend to take a different attitude that is equally as deceptive. Often used by teens as a form of rebellion or just to have fun at parties, they see the potential dangers of marijuana as non-existent.
What I would like to see is more awareness of some of the harms that are involved with marijuana, and start to get a level playing field in that. Because everybody, the general public, is on the side of it is nothing worse than getting a hangover.
People often fall under the misconception that marijuana couldn't possibly do any harm to them, and therefore they can use it all they want. However, just like with anything that goes into the body, marijuana must be used in moderation. It does have positive effects with its use, but when abused, cannabis can lead to a rather negative experience.
High levels of THC can cause you to freak out. I'm sure somebody that sees this will either have done it or had a story where somebody ate a brownie and had 8 hours of sheer terror where it's panic attacks. And so no, it can mess with your head and it can cause hallucinations and anxiety and paranoia. And no, that's real. If you overdo it, that's bad, and it's extremely unpleasant. And also, there are some studies showing that if somebody has mental illness already, like schizophrenia or other problems, it can exacerbate them, and it can cause them to show up faster or differently or stronger.
Just like with any major topic in society, the conversation of marijuana is not one-sided. Though the substance has an abundance of positive effects associated with its use, it is still a strong substance that should be handled carefully in order to prevent any harmful occurrences. With society's current attitude, people will continue to have mixed ideas and false impressions about marijuana until an effort is made by everyone to open up the topic to more conversations, especially with younger generations. By addressing the issue head-on, people can express their thoughts, clear up any misapprehensions, and raise awareness on the truth about marijuana and all it has to offer. Misconceptions in today's society can be very misleading and damaging to progress that could change the lives of many. Though cannabis has long been used as a recreational drug, it has proven to obtain strong medicinal properties that could help a large population of people suffering from debilitating illnesses. By breaking down the plant into its different components, its various parts can be observed and used to treat different conditions. The most common method of defining the different parts of cannabis is separating it into its cannabinoids. There are several cannabinoids featured in the plant, but the two most popular and most used portions are tetrahydrocannabinol and cannabidiol, or better known as THC and CBD.
From the person perspective, the differences are pretty vast. As we all know, THC is the compound that has all of the psychotropic and psychoactive effects of cannabis that is associated with its use. The red eyes, the dry mouth, the laughing, the forgetfulness, the spaciness, the dope headiness, all that comes from the THC. CBD or cannabidiol, on the other hand, has no visible psychoactive effects. It's mostly an anti-inflammatory compound, and when used on a regular basis, it can act as an anxiolytic compound, which means it lowers anxiety. But it doesn't lower anxiety to the level of the stoned out pothead who he's just kind of sitting there like, mumbling.
By utilizing both THC and CBD for different conditions, marijuana can be used in many different ways. Some conditions may require only the CBD oil as a form of treatment, while others may require low amounts of THC. Through having the ability to control how much THC and CBD is in each product, patients can receive treatment that is specific to their needs.
If I had to say the one medicinal property that cannabis has that is good for people is when everything is working together in the plant, you're dealing with a lot of anti-inflammatory compounds. And you think the average person will think of inflammation and think of it as like your back hurts or you have arthritis, but inflammation is far, far, far more complex than that. Inflammation is kind of the marker of all human maladies.
By being able to treat basic inflammation to even the most complex manifestations of it, allows marijuana to cover a wide array of illnesses that it can provide treatment for. Some of the debilitating diseases treated by cannabis include epilepsy, cancer, PTSD, Crohn's disease, multiple sclerosis, and many, many more. The severe pain and suffering associated with these illnesses can prevent people from living a normal daily lifestyle. By being able to use marijuana to treat their diseases and relieve their pain, they can return to their daily lifestyles and enjoy the things they truly love. Marijuana has proven to have an abundance of health benefits, including pain relief. Unlike most other drugs and medications used by patients, cannabis is a natural remedy that isn't created in a lab. Due to its natural composition, it has a calmer effect on the body rather than its synthetic counterparts.
Another unique part specifically about cannabidiol is it also has immunosuppressive properties, to where what that means is it calms your immune response. So in the case of very prevalent autoimmune conditions like MS or ALS or Crohn's or UC or lupus or psoriatic or rheumatoid arthritis, there's a ton of autoimmune conditions. CBD helps calm that immune response, so it kind of chills your body out from attacking itself, but it's not as severe as, say, something like prednisone or Humira, which will wipe out all of your white blood cells and your lymphatics and leave you open to get fungal infections and other bad stuff. So it's a calmer immunosuppressive.
Marijuana's unique composition that allows it to treat severe illnesses without causing other issues within the body is what makes it such a viable option for many people suffering with various conditions. For children like Levy, discovering the benefits of medical marijuana provided comfort for his worried parents that just wanted to help their child.
Diagnosed with severe epilepsy and cerebral palsy from birth, leaving him with brain damage, he suffered seizures, dozens a day. Now they're nearly all gone with just a few drops a day of medical marijuana, cannabis oil, mixed into his food.
We saw a difference immediately, and then after a few weeks we didn't see any seizures at all.
Other medicines didn't work, his father says, or worse, caused severe side effects. Levy has now been on medical cannabis for a year and a half.
Stories such as Levy's provide hope for others who are in need of relief from their suffering and pain. However, for many, relief means uprooting their entire lives and moving across the country in search of treatment. This can be seen in the case of Landon, where he and his mother traveled across state lines just so he could get the treatment he needed.
Acute lymphocytic leukemia, or ALL. It's a cancer of the blood and bone marrow. It's one of the most common cancers in children. It's also one of the most treatable. But the therapy was going to be tough. His mother, Sierra, wanted to try anything to help, and eventually found medical marijuana. Now again, Landon is just 3 years old. They'd come from Utah, where medical marijuana was not legal, to Colorado, where it was.
Okay, here.
And for Landon, it seemed to work. He rebounded, able to eat, sleep, just be a kid.
In cases like Landon's, families become desperate and are required to uproot their lives and move to an area where medical marijuana is legal so they can receive proper treatment. An incident such as this occurred in Georgia a few years ago with a young girl named Haley, who desperately needed cannabis for her illness. With the drug still illegal in the state, her family had no choice but to move to Colorado for Haley's sake. The result of this action caused a push for the legalization of medical marijuana in Georgia, which resulted in the passing of the Haley's Hope Act, which does not legalize the use of marijuana, but does allow for the possession of certain medical cannabis products by those who suffer from certain conditions.
It legalized possession of a THC oil up to 5% THC for a person who had was registered in the state, and that initial run only had a couple conditions. They had to be late stage or terminal, and I think it was 8. It was epilepsy, late stage cancer, epidermolysis bullosa, ALS, MS, sickle cell, and Crohn's. There's another, and Parkinson's maybe. The limit to, and since then, really the only changes that have happened to the Haley's Hope Act was we've added more conditions. We've got PTSD added because of a big push to the veterans. And everybody can have PTSD. It doesn't just have to be veterans. That gets sometimes lost in the media, that any traumatic experience can lead to anybody can have it. And also now chronic pain is one of the conditions that qualifies you to register, for your doctor to register you for a low THC card.
For states like Georgia, it can be seen that there is a growing need for medical marijuana. Bills such as the Haley's Hope Act are the beginning to a bright future for the medical cannabis industry throughout the state.
There's a place for medical marijuana. It does a lot of good things for people in need. There's no question about it.
Though marijuana has proven its health benefits time after time, it still remains caught up in the legalization process and is still categorized as a Schedule I drug. While some states in the U.S. have legalized the drug completely, others have yet to change.
I believe now the reasons that it's still illegal are you have 3 really, really powerful groups that want it to stay illegal, or maybe 4. You've got the drug companies. The pharmaceutical companies they like it when they can patent it and own all of it. And so this is tough for them because you're dealing with so many compounds. Pharmaceutical drugs typically want one molecule that they've created so that they can patent it. Cannabis, you know, you might be having 150 chemicals working together to create an effect, so that's really hard. It's impossible to recreate each and every possible ratio between the cannabinoids and the terpenes and everything. So they don't like it. And if you look at the studies in states that have legalized marijuana, prescription drug use goes down. So that's bad for business. Another group that fights real hard against it, I see them down at the Capitol with their lobbyists, are the private prison systems. We have a private prison system in our country, meaning private companies that are traded on the New York Stock Exchange own prisons, and it's profitable. So they don't want to loosen the marijuana laws because I think something like between 600 and 800,000 people a year in this country are arrested, and that's a lot of money for them.
The power struggle and profit-motivated actions of the current powers influencing the legalization process are the reason why medical marijuana is currently inaccessible to so many suffering people who need it. By properly addressing the situation and finding a mutually beneficial route of action, steps can be taken to create a more cannabis-friendly environment. The first step to doing so would be altering the classification of marijuana as a Schedule I drug.
Schedule I is high potential for abuse with no accepted medical use. Okay, that's already, for cannabis specifically, that's already broken. We know it has medical use. It's been proven. There's FDA-approved drugs that either have cannabinoids in them or are direct analogs of cannabinoids, like dronabinol. Schedule II is high potential for abuse with accepted medical uses. So, for instance, Schedule I drugs are marijuana, heroin, acid is Schedule I. Schedule II drugs are morphine, cocaine, fentanyl. So if you were just an alien and you came down to our country and looked at, like, what drug should I try? If you looked at the Controlled Substances Act of the DEA to decide what drugs were safest to use, you would easily be able to deduce that cocaine and fentanyl are safer than cannabis is. So I'm not a drug doctor, but I would speculate that I would prefer to try cannabis rather than fentanyl, but that's just me. I'm not an alien.
With marijuana still classified as a Schedule I drug, getting caught with any amount of it could mean very severe legal consequences. This poses a great problem for patients who are in dire need of treatment and can't cross state lines to obtain it without committing multiple felonies. Arrests connected to marijuana also play a large role in America's current legal system. An abundance of people arrested and sentenced to jail time face such harsh punishments due to the listing of marijuana as a Schedule I drug. This includes many patients who try to bring their treatment home, or even teenagers who commit ignorant crimes in the name of fun.
Young people don't understand is that you could have a bunch of pot sitting on the table and we're going to go have a pot party, and because of the size of that's sitting on the table, it could be felony level. And what happens if you get caught with the fentanyl, with that amount of marijuana, then you've got an arrest warrant. If convicted, all of a sudden getting into college is a lot difficult. You can't go to the military. And so it kind of, the trickle down effect is fairly significant at that level. So what I would hope is that people like y'all and other folks that would get involved with down at the state legislature and at the federal level to change the law, because marijuana is a Title I or what it's the Schedule I drug. It shouldn't be a Schedule I drug. It should be down. And so there's a lot of people, the police officers are all for it. So now's the time to change the law, get involved and do that.
While some states have created local laws that legalize the use of medical and even recreational marijuana, others remain the same. However, in states like Georgia, bills such as the Haley's Hope Act allow possession of a certain amount of medical marijuana. While bills like these are definitely a step in the right direction towards legalizing the drug for medical use, they do come with great limitations that could possibly restrict the benefits it provides.
The limitations are tremendous. One, Georgia doesn't allow in-state cultivation or manufacture, production, or distribution. So if you get the card, there's nowhere to legally buy the product. You could go out west or up north where there are workable medical cannabis programs, but again, finding a product that complies with Georgia's law is going to be it's very difficult, because nobody's going to make a 5% THC product. They're either going to have like no THC or a ton of it. And then let's say that you do find a product that's compliant with Georgia, you still have the issues of getting it home. So once cannabis is still Schedule 1 as far as the federal government is concerned. So the second you take something as small as a gram and cross a state line, you've committed a felony. And so when you're flying, if you fly from here to Colorado, you commit how many felonies because of how many states you cross. And then there's obviously you're using a federally regulated medium of transportation. So then that's a felony. If you have a cell phone and texted anybody, that's using telecommunications, commit a felony. Now, do they really throw these charges at sick people? No, they don't. But that is a big problem for Georgians that need this product, and it's significant.
In order to overcome such limitations and difficulty with bills such as the Haley's Hope Act, local governments are continuing to pursue further movements in the legalization process. Currently, Georgia is undergoing a political session that could result in a big change for medical marijuana patients, making it easier for them to obtain the treatment they need.
The big thing, there's plenty of lobbyists working on it, there's plenty of legislators and advocates working on it, but what we need in-state cultivation. We need to be able to get licenses and grow cannabis in Georgia, and then from there extract everything that we need and create products and a legal way to grow it, manufacture it, process it, and sell it. That's what we need, and that's going to be what we need until we get it.
If marijuana is made legal for medical use and cultivation, not only would it provide needed treatment for those in the community that suffer with debilitating illnesses, but it would also benefit the state as a whole. In places where it has already been legalized, it can be seen that marijuana has allowed them to flourish economically through the income of taxing the products. However, taxes may impose a burden on patients who may not be able to afford pricey treatments. In order to reap the most benefits, state officials must take everything into consideration on how to properly tax the products in order to improve the state's income, but also help the sick.
Really, the economic value of cannabis is when you have adult use where it's 21 and up, where they can actually tax it and not punish a sick person, or again, getting back into hemp. Hemp is where the the economic benefits, let's say taxes are fair. Let's say they tax it 10%, whatever, something normal. And think about think about the jobs it would create. Once you get out of cities in Georgia, there's nothing. Rural Georgia is dying. So, there, all of a sudden there would be, you build a $13 million facility that employs 60 people. So then you're going to create money in jobs. You're going to have all those people pay taxes, and they're going to buy stuff. So there's only positive economic benefits. And just extrapolate it out, if you open up a $50 billion industry and you just tax it a little bit and look at the jobs it creates, and then the jobs that those jobs will create, because we need all the same services as any other company, and we have the money to pay for them. So
when used correctly, marijuana can provide a multitude of benefits for any community, from helping treat some of the most painful illnesses to creating jobs and increasing state income. Cannabis has an abundance of purposes that can all improve society. The most important step to introducing medical marijuana to the community is raising awareness. By addressing misconceptions head-on and spreading the truth about the benefits and even possible harms of marijuana, society will be equipped to handle such a miraculous substance that has the ability to help so many people.
There's a lot of positive things that happen through that process. The one thing that isn't, and I've said it before, is the simple fact that people really aren't concentrating on the negative aspect of it. And so if it's done in line with the medical profession, good. If it's not so good.